Disney World. You know it, you love it, or hate it, I'm not judging. Understandable if you do, honestly, especially with the prices they're charging these days. Whoo-wee! But I, for one, have a lot of nostalgia for the place. My family and I got to go a bunch when I was a kid because we lived in Orlando and my grandma was a Disney cast member for a long time. So, when I was in college and was looking for an internship to pad out my resume, the Disney College program seemed like a natural choice. And boy was it a trip. I had to deal with so much crap, so much backbreaking labor, but it was also one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So, over the next however long it takes to get through this video, I'd like to tell you good folks about my time in the Disney College program and working at the Disney parks, because the people deserve to know what their money is going towards. Now, after I submitted my application and did the phone interview, I was in. I received emails informing me of when I should move in and when I would start working. My move-in date was set for June 4th, so when the day came, my parents and I loaded up my belongings into the family car, and we set off on the long, arduous journey of 40 miles. Yeah, I wasn't too far from Flamingos Crossing Village, which was the place where I would be staying. When we arrived, I got out and got in line to get my room key and have my picture taken for my ID. It didn't take too long, luckily. Then I was told which apartment I would be staying in, and it was all the way in the southeast of the complex. That would mean it would be a long-ass walk to get to the buses that go to the parks, but hey, it wasn't that bad of a walk. I wasn't doing a 5K or anything. Once I was moved in, there wasn't a whole lot to do for the next couple of days, so I might as well talk about the apartment itself. It was 2 people to a room, dorm style, with a pretty sizable kitchen and living area. There were cupboards for each resident. I took the one on the top left because that was cooler. There was also an in-unit washer and dryer, which was really nice because you could just wash your clothes and dirty uniforms in the apartment without having to drag a laundry basket to some washroom. And there was even a big-ass flat-screen TV in the living room. I mean, I didn't use it because I brought my own, but it's still a pretty damn cool thing to get. All the utilities were free except for electricity, which was free for the first $25 worth. There wasn't really a way of telling how much electricity you used up, so I chose to play it safe and keep all my stuff unplugged and only turn the lights on when I really needed it. It was also unclear how the electricity costs were divided between people in the dorm. Like, did everyone just have their own $25 limit, or was it a big pool? Were we being charged for everyone else's electricity use? It was really just vague and seemed like the company running the apartments was purposely opaque about that crap. Then again, it was a company that ran a lot of actual student housing for colleges, so I can't say I expected too much from them. In total, the cost of staying in the apartment each week was about $192 a week, plus whatever extra charge for the electricity. Now, you may be thinking that this could be a bunk deal. However, prior to this, I lived in the college dorms over at UCF for roughly the same weekly cost or more, and they were far worse in terms of value for money. One that I lived in for my freshman year of college had a puny-ass living room area that didn't even come with any furniture, just an empty liminal-ass space. So in comparison, the Flamingo Crossing dorms were a freaking sweet deal. And that's not to mention the other amenities the complex had. There were pools, a big gym, study areas, a big courtyard with grassy fields, and even some basketball courts. And y'all know what your boy was doing, right? Yep, I barely used any of that shit. Listen, I'm not a socializing kind of guy, alright? I much prefer my own company if I can help it. Now, the day finally came for traditions, and a big group of the new people were wrangled into one of the big rooms in one of the admin buildings. And at traditions, it was traditions. Basically, we were shown a big presentation about what the Disney parks were all about, what you should do as a cast member, what to do in case of emergencies, all that jazz. The next day was much of the same, except at the end, we finally got our name tags. Normally, the name tags for Disney cast members will say their name and the city they're from. However, for college programmers, instead of the city you're from, it's the college you attend. But that's only for US programmers. International college programmers still have their city on the name tag. It's an easy way to spot cast members from the college program. Now, my name tag said University of Central Florida on it. I, for the life of me, over the whole program, only saw like 1 or 2 other people with that on their name tags. I honestly would have expected way more people from UCF to be doing something like this, but I guess some of them might just take the route of being an actual regular cast member instead, which is understandable, I guess. Now the next day is when you actually got to enter the park, and for me, it was Magic Kingdom. It was pretty exciting, especially when you went through the big entrance of the Utilidors for the first time. Now, I just want to say one thing about the Utilidors for a second. People like to say that the Utilidors are these mysterious and mystical tunnels that exist under the Disney park, like it's some sort of conspiracy or some shit. I've even seen creepypastas being written about it. And I just wanted to say that no, the Utilidors are not creepy, and they are not much of a secret anymore. There's even a whole ass episode of Modern Marvels about it. Have you even seen Modern Marvels on the History Channel before? I doubt you would have, you uncultured swine. Anyways, I got to the Mouseketeria, which is the big cafeteria for most of the cast members near the entrance. From there, a big group of us newbies were led around the park on a big tour and shown many of the important parts. I had seen Magic Kingdom many times before, but it was interesting to walk around the park in a large group. We even got to ride on the Little Mermaid Omnimover ride during the tour, which was pretty cool. After the tour of the park was over, we were taken to a backlot area, and then we were led into the upper floor of the buildings on Main Street. Did y'all know those upper floors on the Main Street buildings were actually used as offices for park managers? I sure as hell didn't. And that was pretty interesting to see. Then our big group was subdivided into smaller groups based on what sector we were going to be working in. Mine was food and beverage. After that, all the groups were led back out of the Utilidors and back to the main bus area. From there, we were led into this big building next to the bus shelters called Disney University. We were then led to a computer room where we had to complete some courses to finish up our onboarding process. That was a lot of stuff about food service and handling food and that crap.
Remember that the safe temperature ranges for food are below 141 degrees and above 135 degrees.
That's the gist of what I remember, really. Then was the most fun part of all, picking out our uniforms. The person in charge of our group went to get our costumes. I had 2 shirts and a pair of pants that I would be wearing at my location. Then you went to go get your shoes and try everything on. If everything fit, you were then supposed to just wait in front of the exit of the costuming building for everyone to finish up and get their stuff. Okay, now here's where I fucked up. I did not get the message that I was supposed to wait in the front of the exit. And I was one of the first people to finish, and there was literally no one else there to tell me otherwise. So I go outside into the parking lot / taxi bus area, and I'm trying to figure out where to go from there. Do I go back on the bus to the Utilidors, or is there a different bus? I don't know. To make matters worse, there are 2 other girls who made the same mistake, one of whom was very tiny, and if I'm remembering right, was in one of those electric mobility chairs. So now, there are 3 of us just wandering around the Magic Kingdom cast member bus loading area, looking like idiots and trying to figure out where the hell we were supposed to go. Thankfully, a few minutes later, the lady in charge of us eventually found us, but she was not happy and we got scolded. Just one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life right there. Thankfully, she didn't stay mad for very long and we were off to our final meeting of the day. After that final meeting, we were free to go back to our apartments and wash off the embarrassment. Before we continue, I should tell you that during my time in the college program, I was trained to work at 2 locations. That's right, 2 locations. Tomorrowland Terrace Dessert Party and Casey's Corner. For the purposes of this video, I'll only be talking about TLT for now. Don't worry, I'll get to Casey's Corner at a later date. That's why you should subscribe and like the video. So, what is the Tomorrowland Terrace Dessert Party? Well, it's a reservation-based event where you can eat all of the sweets and drinks, including alcohol, to your heart's content. Except the alcohol. There are limits to that, so don't get any ideas.
This means you.
You also get access to the private garden where you and your ugly family can watch Happily Ever After, the spectacular fireworks show. Depending on whether you book the pre-party or the post-party, you'll eat and drink either before or after the fireworks. But if you book seats for the Seats and Suites on level 3, you won't even have to go out to the garden. You can just watch from the comfort of your own table. That's right, your fat ass won't even have to move an inch to watch the fireworks. Now before we discuss my first days of training and the positions at TLT, let's peep the fit. As you can see, most of it doesn't stand out. You have the black cap with black pants and non-slip shoes, but then you get to the torso right here. The shirt section of the costume seems to be a strange mix between a chef's jacket and a space police officer / military uniform. It's kind of a strange outfit, but I like it. Gives you a sense of that Disney magic, you could say. As for the other shirt, it's just a white shirt with some front pockets. There was nothing special. But what was special was its function. You see this line right there? Line of death right there. If you are on stage, that means being visible to guests. And if you are wearing a certain uniform, such as the Space Ranger chef jacket uniform, you cannot cross into another land or area of the park. This goes for every section of the park. If you break this rule, Mickey Mouse himself will come down from the castle and beat your ass to a bloody pulp.
Fucking do it, bitch! I dare ya!
I've seen it happen before, folks. Don't let it happen to you. Stay behind the line. And that's why if you need to go to another section of the park above ground, you wear the white shirt. You see, the beauty of the white shirt is that it is a generic enough costume that it could fit in anywhere. That is why it is so valuable. Now I can cross between Tomorrowland and Main Street, and there's nothing the damn mouse can do about it. Right. I think it's time I told you about my first day of training at the Tomorrowland Terrace dessert party. According to my itinerary, I was supposed to arrive at the Cass Crossroads, which is a big junction in the Utilidors where a bunch of people clock in and out, to wait for my trainer to arrive at 3:30 p.m. Naturally, I arrive early and wait for my trainer to arrive. 3:30 comes, and no one arrives. 3:35 comes, no one has shown up. 3:40 comes around, and still no one has arrived. Then 3:45 comes, and I'm beginning to think that they just forgot about me. While I was waiting, a girl wearing the same uniform as me showed up and was likely waiting for the same trainer. When the clock hit 3:45, I asked her if we should just walk down to HR and see what they could do for us. She agreed that we should do that, and we walked down the Utilidors until we reached the room for HR. We then explained our problem to them. The HR people make sure that we have everything in order, and of course we do, so it was definitely a problem on TLT's end. One of the HR people then has to escort us over to the elevator that leads to Tomorrowland Terrace and take us to the leader's office in the TLT kitchen and says that we need a trainer. Even the TLT people are confused about the mix-up. They actually fucking forgot about us! What I think might have happened is that the person who was originally supposed to train us called out that day, and the Disney system chose a different trainer to train us, but that trainer wasn't informed for some reason, and it just fucked everything up. But eventually, they managed to wrangle a trainer, and we can finally get on with our training. Now it's time to go over all of the positions, and I'll do this in order of how we learned them during training. Bar. That's right, kids. They had a full-on bar at Tomorrowland Terrace dessert party. Well, maybe not a full bar. More like a few tables with glasses and a rollable counter and some coolers. And the drink selection was just limited to 6. A Chardonnay, a Red Blend, a Moscato, Sparkling White, a Bud Light Lager, and a Blue Moon. We had to have an orange slice to garnish along with the Blue Moon, and you had to keep them cool with ice. All of the drinks for the bar had to be brought out in one of these big rolling crates filled with ice, except for the Red Blend, which had to just be kept on the counter in a special spot. There were also specific glasses that you had to pour everything into. Wine glasses for the 3 wines, champagne glasses for the sparkling wine, and beer glasses for the 2 beers. I remember one time I was on bar, I ran out of wine glasses, and when you're on bar, you're only one person. You can't leave to go get more glasses, so you have to stay and guard the alcohol from being drunk by people who shouldn't be drinking it, like minors, or worse, British people. So I ended up having to pour the wines into the champagne glasses. I don't think the guests particularly minded that. Plus, filling the champagne glasses was about the same as what we were supposed to fill the wine glasses up with, so yeah. Now, I was actually under 21 while being on bar, but adults under 21 can serve alcohol as long as they take a certain test in the state of Florida, which I passed with flying colors, thank you very much. Drinks. Another liquid-based position, but this time without alcohol involved. So with this position, you were in charge of setting out 6 large containers of non-alcoholic drinks. These drinks are water, milk, sweet tea, lemonade, strawberry juice, and something called Pog juice. The water you just got from the tap, and you also got the sweet tea from the old taps from when TLT was an actual restaurant. The milk was pre-packaged in cartons, but the lemonade, strawberry juice, and Pog all had to be made from concentrate, which was stored in the big walk-in fridge in the back of the kitchen. The lemonade was stored in a different fridge though. To create a sufficient amount of drink for each, you would need to pour 1 gallon worth of lemonade mix, strawberry concentrate, or the Pog mix into a rectangular drinks container. You would then need to take 2 gallons of water and pour them into the concentrate, and you would then have to mix them in with a whisk. Then after about a minute of mixing, voila, you have some drinks ready to serve. This process would actually take a fairly long amount of time because of how slow it was to fill the empty gallon jugs with water. We had to do it from an old tap that filled the jugs really slowly. And you would have to fill the containers with ice from a big ass machine near the door to the onstage area. You were also in charge of setting up the drink cups and polishing them. When the party was in process, you also had to keep a watchful eye on the drinks containers before they completely ran dry so that you could get some more out. The ones that went the fastest were the water, for obvious reasons, and the Pog juice. Everybody loved the Pog juice. The one that almost nobody drank was the sweet tea. There would be shifts where I never refilled the sweet tea, and it looked like nobody had poured a drink from the container. At the end of the night, you would have to pour out all of the drink containers into the AVAG drain before they could be cleaned in the sinks and then set back for the next day of use. The whole process could be a real pain in the ass when you're really tired and you just want to go home, but you had to do it for cleanliness. Stalker. The stalkers were in charge of setting up all the food items out on the May buffet tables for the guests. You would have to take the desserts and snacks, which were made by the actual kitchen staff, from the containers in the big walk-in fridge off of the trays and plate them onto the regular black plates that were meant to go on the buffet. You had to make sure that there were enough to last your floor for the whole night. So you would need to plate the first 2 plates out on the table, and the rest would have to be put on a rolling cart for later use. And I remember now that all the food items, like the drinks and the plated dessert/food items, had to have dated stickers on them. I'm pretty sure this was to prevent bad food from being used. The food items included for the guests were plates of various fruits, cheeses, crackers, chocolate strawberries, fried donuts, strawberry sauce, Oreo mousse cheesecake, tres leches, butterscotch pudding with popcorn, chocolate pudding, chocolate silk pies, key lime tarts, and who could forget the chilling chamber pops. The pops actually had their own special metal holder that you would have to pick them out of. That was pretty neat. During the party, the job wasn't too complicated. Just watch the plates as the guests get food and make sure that the food is all stocked up. The empty plates go under the buffet table for the runner to pick up later. At the end of the shift, just spoil all the food on the table that wasn't eaten and put the big roller cart with the rest of the plates in the big fridge. You then wipe down all the buffet tables with soap, water, and a special cleaning liquid. After that, you're basically good to go. Crepes. Alright, crepes is an interesting position because it's similar to bar because you can't leave it alone during the party. Not because there's alcohol involved. No, it's because you're in charge of several open flames while on this position. Your job is to warm and plate cinnamon apple crepes. The pans of crepes sat above a bigger pan with boiling water underneath. You scooped one out of the warming pan and then you put it on the table, then you put the cream over top. Then you take a spoonful of crushed pecans and pour it on the cream. Lastly, you drizzle some caramel sauce over the crepe. Voila, now it's ready to be served. I've only ever been assigned this shift once, and it was after I had started setting up for a stalker shift because the person who was supposed to do it called out. I even remember having to look for the right sized pans to put under the flames, but there weren't any in the TLT kitchen, so your boy had to go over to the Plaza restaurant to get some pans from over there. The only other times I've worked crepes was helping someone else out when they needed to get more stuff. The only thing that really pissed me off about the position was the smell. I am not at all a fan of the smell of cinnamon apple. It just reminds me of vomit for some reason. I don't know why, but it just does. I think there are some closing procedures involved with making crepes for the next shift, but your boy never actually had to do any of that shit, so I wouldn't know. Cookie table. Cookie table is a cool little position. You basically have a table that you sit at and you're in charge of different treats like chocolate chip and sugar cookies along with these little cake pop little things. There are also coloring pages and crayons for the kids out on the table. There's also frosting and sprinkles for the kids to decorate their cookies with or even just to paint the plates. I can't tell you much about the opening or closing procedures for cookie table because I was never actually assigned a shift on it. I filled in for a few minutes while people went to get more cookies and toppings, but never a full shift. Sometimes when the other cast members had nothing to do, we would just draw with frosting onto a plate as decoration for the table for the night. I remember one time someone drew a Barbie logo because this was around the time that movie came out. And the next day, our leader had to talk to us. Some shit about only being able to draw Disney-related things for the cookie table. Lame as hell, if you ask me. Let us have fun at the cookie table. Let us draw Shrek with the frosting. I remember one time I made a shitty drawing of Bart Simpson for the level 3 cookie table. There was no yellow frosting, so I had to do it with green. Shit looked whack as hell. Busser / Cedar. These two are in the same category because you have to do the same things when you're assigned to them. Before the party, you have to wipe down all the tables. Then you have to set all the ceramic centerpieces from the AVAC room out on the tables. Then you have to get all the plastic candles out from the back office, turn them on, and set them inside the ceramic centerpieces. You would also have to help out with setting up other positions if you had the time. Or you could just not if you didn't feel like it. Then when guests started coming in, you had to lead them to their seats, usually telling them about the party. Alright, now let's see if I can still remember the little spiel I gave to them. Hello there, folks. My name is
Redacted.
Have you ever been to Tomorrowland Terrace dessert party before? Well then, you're sure to enjoy our wonderful buffet of sweets, our drinks right over there, our alcoholic drinks for the adults right over there, and even a cookie table over there for the kids. Now, how many people were in your party? Excellent! Follow me and I will get you folks seated. Fucking nailed it. It went something along those lines. When I was pointing over to all the stuff at the dessert party, I had to make sure to point using 2 fingers, which was very important for some reason. That was just how they made you point at Disney. Now, when you seated guests, you also had to put the wristbands on them. This served multiple functions. The wristbands identified the guests as having paid for the dessert party so that they could come and go as they pleased. It also identified guests who were over 21 based on the color if the wristband was striped or not. If it was striped, the guest was over 21 and they could drink at the bar. Very helpful when you're on bar and it starts to get a little too busy. Then when the guests start to leave, you have to take the glasses and plates back to the AVAC for the runner to take away. And if you're on level 1, you have to do it fast because there's going to be a second party happening on that floor. So hurry up, bitch! Runner. Runner, runner, runner. How do I even begin with this one? As you might be able to tell, this was undoubtedly my least favorite position at the dessert party. To make you understand just how much I hated this position, I should just start with the beginning of the shit, so that you can get a good idea of what kind of shit I had to deal with. First, you need to set up the AVAC, which is this dank, weird smelling room on either level 1 or 3 that you need to put a trash can in, 2 for level 1, along with a cart for the tubs, put the dishes in, along with containers for all of the glasses that are going to be bust, along with some rollers to put the glass containers on, along with brooms to sweep up any possible messes. Then you need to get some linens and put them over 2 tables at the end of the buffet. Only then can you start putting the little black plates out, usually in 7 stacks of roughly 30 on each table. Then you need to unwrap and fill the plastic utensil and napkin holders. If you're on level 1 and the party is fully booked with up to 300 people, you have to do all of this shit for level 2 as well. That's right, there's a second level, and it doesn't have its own runner. The whole setup for the party that the runner needs to do takes up about 2 hours. And I'm not sure if you know this, but usually party starts in about 2 hours after you clock in. You only just barely have enough time to get all that shit set up. But that's just the beginning. It's only when the dessert party starts when the real shit begins. Party starts, you have to begin seating guests along with the busters and seaters. But you can't do it for too long because you need to keep an eye out on the level of utensils, napkins, and plates. And when the party really gets going, the utensils, especially the forks and knives, start going fast. Then, if you aren't doing anything, you need to start bussing. Because remember, there's another dessert party after the fireworks. But you can't bus for too long because the tubs of dishes and the glass containers will inevitably fill up from the busters and seaters bringing shit back. So then, you have to carry either a heavy-ass tub of dishes back to the washer, or you have to roll a big-ass stack of drink crates back to them. And you have to be careful with the drink crate rollers because of the lip at the bottom that separates the outside floor and the AVAC floor. One wrong move, and that tower of glass comes crashing the fuck down. When you get back from dish, you then have to take the stacks of the long plates off the buffet table. Oh, and the stalker asked you to get another container of chamber pops. So you take the dishes back and search for the big roller in the fridge with the chamber pops. You bring the pops out, but the person at the bar asks you to get some water bottles from inside. You oblige them and get the water bottles for the guests. And guess what? It's a fully booked party, so you have to go down to level 2 and take their dishes back and fill their utensils and napkin holders as well. Oh, and did I mention it's the middle of summer and it's 95 degrees out with 95 humidity? That's right, you're sweating your ass off while you're running around, taking all sorts of dishes and glasses back, bringing out the plates of food, getting the things for the person on bar, and rolling out crates. You take a napkin and wipe it across your brow. Oh shit! The fireworks have already started. You know what that means. It's time to take out the 2 trash bags that are now heavy as shit and filled to the brim. Luckily, one of the trash cans is in a big roller, so that you can tie the other trash bag and put it into that one. But you need to hurry. That fireworks show only lasts 17 minutes, so you rush out to the trash compactor as fast as you can without running, chuck the bags in, hurry back, and put fresh bags in both trash cans. You then need to take whatever dishes and glasses are left back to dish, refill the utensils, plates, napkins, and refill your water bottle just in the nick of time so that you can help seat the next party's worth of guests. And then you repeat that process that you just went through for the first party until the guests slowly begin to trickle out of the party. At last, every guest has left, and you can begin putting things away. But not before helping the bussers bring all of the dishes and glasses back to the AVAC first. Once all of the dishes and glasses have been brought back, you roll the last of the dishes back to dish on the cart. You then roll all of the crates of glasses back to dish before taking the trash back out to the trash compactor for the last time that night and putting the trash cans away. Once the bussers have brought all of the ceramic centerpieces back and the drinks person has dumped all of the drinks down the drain, only then may you begin to clean the AVAC room. You turn the water hose on and melt the ice from the drink containers, taking care to pick any trash out of the drain as well. You then soak the floor and the walls with water before taking the bottle of cleaning solution and spraying it across the floor. You then spray again with the water to make sure the solution gets all over. Then you get the big squeegee and drag all of the remaining water towards the small drain in the back of the wall that is right next to the shelf where the ceramic centerpieces are stored. And it is a pain in the fucking ass to try and get all of that goddamn water into the drain with the squeegee when the fucking squeegee is hitting the goddamn legs of the damn shelf. It sucks. Then, after the leader checks your AVAC room, and you and the remaining cast members have arranged the glass containers into color-coded stacks in the back, may you finally end your shift and clock the fuck out. Runner had to be the most physically taxing job in the entirety of the dessert party. Every time I was runner, I found a new way to hate life itself. And I got assigned to be runner a lot. It also didn't help that they preferred to have taller people be runners, since they could stack the glass crates higher than the shorter people. And guess who was on the taller side? I swear to God, there was one week when I was assigned almost exclusively the runner position. And I wanted to die that whole week. And the thing was, you only knew what position you were going to get that day on the marker sheet they put on the wall next to the clock-in computer. So you're going to look at what position you got assigned and you would be like, please don't be runner, please don't be runner, please don't be runner, please don't be runner, fuck! I actually talked to another cast member who was more in with the leadership at TLT, and he said that I got assigned runner so much because I was apparently pretty good at it. So I guess that's a good thing, if being assigned runner didn't make me want to rip my skin off. Anyways, on a lighter note, podium. This was one of the 3 white shirt positions, those being podium, garden greeter, and garden walker. The podium is kind of basic. You check the guests in based on their last name. You should be able to see the party size, the amount of guests over 21, and any allergies that people may have. You will then cross the name out on the printed sheet and hand out the appropriate number of wristbands, as well as the appropriate reservation sign to the seater. Now, there were 2 signs that you could give out. The standard, which was a darker shade of blue, and the allergy sign, which was typically a lighter teal color. Unfortunately, this is another position that I don't have too much to say about because I was never assigned to it when I worked at TLT. So let's move on to the other 2 white shirt positions. Garden walker. Now this was a fun one. The opening procedures for this position were basically just helping everyone else set up and seat guests. However, during the party, and after all the guests have been seated, you retrieve a special item from under the check-in podium. That's right, you get a shiny new blue light wand. It was super cool to get one of those. Then you would go stand on the opposite wall to the entrance ramp of the dessert party. When the parties were ready, you would walk them over to the private garden from which they would view the fireworks display. You would do this until all of the pre-party guests were situated in the garden. From there, some people would stay and chat with the other cast members, but I'm pretty sure you would have to help level 1 set up for the next party. After the fireworks, you would help seat the guests again, like everyone else, but I'm pretty sure you could leave after all the guests were seated. At the very least, you wouldn't have to close, which was really nice. My memory of Garden Walker is a bit hazy because I wasn't assigned to it often, but when I was, man, I enjoyed every second of it. Garden Greeter. Garden Greeter is a bit of a doozy. On this position, it was your job to make sure that everyone in the garden was supposed to be there by checking wristbands. But that wasn't your only responsibility. No, you also had to do a lot of crowd control as well. Once the fireworks were about to start, everyone had to stand up. No one could sit down. You also couldn't let kids sit on their parents' shoulders for the show either. And man, let me tell you, some people got real pissy about that. Like, Mickey won't be able to see, what do you mean? Type of shit. Not to mention the fact that you had to keep the pathways open for everyone to walk through the garden. This was especially difficult because some people had trouble listening because of all the noise, or they just didn't care and they like to make life difficult for everyone else. Now, we were supposed to have a radio that we could talk to the guests to do like trivia and shit while everyone was waiting, but I don't know where the hell that thing went. I've only been assigned this position a few times, and I'm pretty glad that that was the case because I don't have a lot of pleasant memories of it. Exit greeter. This one is pretty simple. You just stand at the exit to make sure that everyone entering has a wristband and that nobody leaves with alcohol. Magic Kingdom is actually a dry park, believe it or not, and alcohol is only allowed in certain sit-down restaurants. TLT was special because its liquor license only applied to each level separately and not any of the walkways that separated the floors. So it was extremely important that this rule was enforced. You were also in charge of setting up the stanchions that demarcated the exits. Aside from that, it was a bit boring, but still beat getting runner any day of the week. Friars. The final position, which I can remember anyway, and this was one of my personal favorites. Now, before you even started, you did have to filter out the fryer oil, which could be a pain in the ass. But once you did it enough, it went like clockwork. Now, on fryers, you are in charge of one thing and one thing only: donuts. You make the sugary coating that covers the donuts, which consists of a few big scoops of sugar and a bit of cinnamon mixed together. You also are in charge of getting the donut cart out of the big walk-in fridge and putting those trays of donuts in the freezer near the fryer. You were also responsible for scooping donut mix out of the containers and making new trays of donuts, about 10 by 6 for every tray that you fried. And most importantly, you were responsible for taking the frozen donuts out of the freezer and cooking them for the proper amount of time in the fryer before rolling them around in the cinnamon sugar coating and then plating them. When you cooked the donuts, you had to make sure to shake the basket you put them in a bunch to make sure they didn't stick to the bottom of it. This position was one of, if not my favorite position at Tomorrowland Terrace Dessert Party. I think the reasons I liked it so much was because I didn't have to run around with my head cut off, I didn't have to interact with any moronic guests, and I didn't have to sweat my balls off in the muggy Florida summer's air. All I had to do was fry up the donuts, scoop them out onto the tray, plate donuts in strawberry sauce when the runner or stalker needed it, and when the day was over, I would simply lock the donut freezer, take the refilled donut cart back to the walk-in fridge, and wipe down my workstation before leaving. In a way, it was the closest possible thing I could get to Zen at TLT. Like, there was one day when the fireworks were delayed to shit and eventually canceled, and it was just a complete shit show out there in the terrace. However, your boy was on fryers that day, and I got to avoid all of that bullshit. I only heard of how bad it was from the people who actually had to deal with it, and they were not having a good time. And that is why I love fryers. It saved me from having to deal with some real bullshit that day. At the end of your training on the 5th day, you would have to take a quote-unquote test administered by a coordinator, but it wasn't too difficult. And from there, you are now officially an employee of the Walt Disney Corporation. May God have mercy on your soul. If I had to rank these positions in order from least favorite to favorite, it would go runner, busher/seater, garden greeter, podium, cookie table, crepes, exit greeter, stalker, bar, drinks, garden walker, and my personal favorite, my beloved, fryers. I might have forgot a position or two at this point because it's been a few years, but fuck it. Now it's time for some funny shit. Okay, so despite the name Tomorrowland Terrace and the fact that we wore Tomorrowland uniforms and the fact that the whole place was themed as a part of Tomorrowland and the Tomorrowland music was playing in the background constantly, TLT, for some reason, was administratively a part of Main Street North. Why is it like that? I have no clue. I guess it's because it's so much farther away from the rest of Tomorrowland that it would be easier to make it administratively a part of Main Street. I just don't know. Now, one thing that was cool about the training was that you got to try all of the food and non-alcoholic drinks that were served at the dessert party. Makes sense, because if the guests ask you what's good, you want to have an answer for them. My favorite food item was probably the chilling chamber pop or the butterscotch pudding. My favorite drink was definitely the Pog juice. I realized that I didn't explain what the Pog juice actually is, so I'll go ahead and do that now. You see, Pog stands for pomegranate, orange, and guava, I think. P might have been passion fruit, I'm not quite sure. But still, if you ain't tried it, you're missing out, buddy. The thing that was less cool was having to work for 10 days straight out of training. Out of the pan and into the fryer, eh? I don't know if this was like a management sanctioned form of hazing for new people or if it was just a mistake or what. But working for 10 days straight takes a toll on you, man. Oh, there was actually one more drink that I forgot about. The sparkling cider. This is one that I tend to forget about because it was often unclear who was supposed to put it out most of the time. Basically, we would have special drink racks with these blue plastic drink cups resembling champagne glasses. It was all a pain in the ass to fill up the cups up because you would need to fill up enough until the foam would die down, and then it turned out to be way less than you thought you poured. You had to pour like 75 cups worth of cider, which took like 13 or 14 bottles of the sparkling cider just to do it. And the apple cider bottles were proper bottles with metal caps and all, and you would need to get someone to take out their actual bottle opener to get one of those open. But there were a lot of times when we couldn't find a bottle opener. So, I devised a method to open the bottles without them. You see, there were some metal forks in one of the storage rooms, so I took out one of the forks and jammed it up under the little lips that the metal lids had. Then I would jiggle the metal under that part of the cap up. I would continue doing that all around the lip of the cap until it eventually popped off. I felt like a goddamn genius the first time I did this. I made for damn sure those kids were gonna get their apple cider. I was not about to let the magic die on my watch. One thing you might find strange is that we couldn't take monetary tips from the guests. I guess it ruined the magic for us to be taking cash from the guests, or it made the parks look like they weren't paying us enough. I don't know. However, we were allowed to take anything else the guests gave us. So if the guests gave us food or little trinkets, that stuff was fair game. And they also encouraged guests to give us something called a cast compliment. It was something that you could do on the app that said we did a good job. But the thing was that it was on the app, and most vacationing park guests didn't want to have to use their brains to fiddle around with the app. So the only cast compliment I ever got was from one of my coordinators. Yeah. Speaking of, I should probably shed some light on the leadership over at Dessert Party. So when you work at a location in the parks, there's going to be two types of people breathing down your neck. The coordinators and the leaders. The coordinators are the people that you see in those brown shirts. They'll typically have a radio earpiece to talk over the radio with. At TLT, we typically had two on any given day, one for level 1 and the other for level 3. Then there's the leader. The leader is the proper boss of your location. They are the ones who will typically give the pre-shift talk with everyone and get everyone up to speed with what's going to be happening that day. I would say the main difference between the Coords and the leaders is that the Coords would be closer in rank to the regular cast members as opposed to the leaders. The coordinators are also paid by the hour just like the rest of the cast members, as opposed to the leaders who get an actual salary. And speaking of radios, there were quite a few positions at TLT that needed to have their own radios for communicating with the coordinators. Positions like bar, podium, and garden greeter. This was especially important if you were on bar and there was only one of you there at any given time, because if you needed something and there ain't a runner coming by, then your ass needs to ask politely over the radio and hope to God that someone arrives with what you need before the guest starts to crash out. Now there was one problem with the radios, and that was that everyone kept fucking losing them. This meant that there was often a shortage of radios, and when there's a shortage of radios, guess what position doesn't get one? That's right, bar. I can't tell you how many times I ended up on bar by myself because the other person went to go get something, and I just had to stay there hoping a runner or coordinator would walk by so I could ask them to get something for me that I desperately needed. It was a goddamn mess. At some point, they did try to label the radios, But I don't know how well that really worked out because often I still couldn't find the ones for bar. Okay, now I want you folks to answer a question for me. When do you think the fireworks will be canceled? For what reason? For rain, you say? Wrong! Those fireworks go off, rain or not. The fireworks are only canceled if a lightning strike is detected somewhere in the vicinity of the park. Only then does the park go into a 101, which is what we refer to a lightning warning as. Now, if the lightning stops within a certain amount of time, then we get the 102 signal, which means that it's safe to proceed. There's a bunch of other codes that cast members use over the radio to not let the guests know that shit's happening. Like Signal 70 means a lost child, Code V means vomit, and whatnot. Now, if I may go back to talking about busing for 1 second, the sheer amount of alcohol glasses that we would have to clear from some of the tables was staggering. I mean, once I saw a 2-seater table with like 12 champagne glasses on it, with some spare room for a few wine glasses. It was so goddamn much, I couldn't fit all the glasses onto my busing tray without having to come back for a second load. Like, Jesus Christ, people, I know you're on vacation and the drinks are included, but have some goddamn self-restraint. Especially because I know you people are gonna feel that shit in the morning. 6 champagnes apiece plus wine is not a good combination if you want to keep the sweets you ate down in the morning. I would know. I mixed drinks at my cousin's wedding reception and the next day I was barfing in the hotel trash cans. That shit sucked. It also didn't help that the AVACs would get super goddamn crowded when a bunch of people were putting shit away. I swear to God, it was almost impossible to reach the drain in level 3 AVAC because of all the shit you had to put in there. At some point, we didn't even use the drain in that AVAC anymore, so we moved all the shit out behind one of the big rolling tables and used 1 or 2 of the big drink containers to put the drink waste in. And you know what? I honestly preferred it that way. It was just a massive pain in the ass to clean that AVAC as well because the squeegee for it was wider than the damn AVAC area. That AVAC wasn't even a room. The walls didn't even reach all the way up to the ceiling. Alright, I've talked for quite a bit. How long have I kept you folks here for? God damn! I suppose I should finish up soon. So I'll talk about the allergies for the last thing. Now you may have heard a story of a woman dying at a Disney restaurant because they served her food with something she was allergic to. And then Disney tried to say that they couldn't be sued because the suing party agreed to the terms of service for Disney Plus. That whole situation was just a tragic shit show all around. Now, in regards to that situation, I would just like to say that the restaurant where this happened at was located in Disney Springs. Disney Springs. Not in any of the actual parks. I'm not sure if you know this, but there are a bunch of third-party companies that set up shop there, and I don't know if any of those restaurants have the same procedures with dealing for allergies as any of the restaurants in the parks. Because in the parks, they take that shit deathly seriously. They do not fuck around with that shit. Like, if you have an allergy at the dessert party, you have to wait at your seat until a coordinator comes to your table and takes down what your allergies are. Then they have to go into the kitchen and assemble a special allergy-free plate for you specifically that accommodates your allergies. And I'm not gonna lie, some of those allergy plate treats looked pretty good, bro. I wouldn't have mind trying some of them. Well, that's about all I have for now. I've written over 8,000 words for this script in like 2 days. That shit is hell on your wrist and fingers. But it was satisfying to get a few of my thoughts out about working at Disney World. But don't you worry your pretty little face. I've got plenty more stories from my time working at Disney, and I've got a whole lot of other stories and ignorant ass opinions that I feel like sharing with complete strangers over the interwebs. And who knows, maybe we can become something more than just strangers. Perhaps even acquaintances? Don't touch that log out button, because there's gonna be plenty more where this came from. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a nice little comment. And if you don't,
I'll find you.
this has been a Sojourner production.
Now watch this drive.